Between the last train and her lie, my wife's signal dropped at 1:42 a.m. Subways pretend to sleep. They only lower their eyes. After the last northbound whispers into the yard, the tunnels exhale, and a different city wakes up, the one with orange vests and flashlights, the one that measures breath in amps and volts. In the operations control center, the air is always a degree colder than it needs to be. The hum of the racks is a sermon with no words, and the wall of screens throws a quiet ocean across our faces. Signals bloom and fade, track circuits color in and out like lungs. I sit in the middle of that sea with a headset and a binder of protocols, and the railroad and I call each other by our first names. My name is Calder. When you run trains, you learn to read what steel is thinking. A relay that hesitates is a child deciding to tell the truth. A switch that doesn't quite finish is a shoulder that needs a hand. Silence is a system too. The silence of a tunnel that should be rattling to itself. The silence of a phone that should be jealous with alerts. Every light has a story. At 1:42 a.m., a light on the lower east trunk blinked wrong. It wasn't theatrical. A little white rectangle on the edge of the map hiccuped. Emergency egress door open, 15 seconds, then closed, logged by a system that logs everything and judges nothing. The platform cameras captured nothing but a sliver of tile and the bored yawn of an empty bench. The track circuit nearest the door dropped and came back as if a phantom ankle had brushed it. A maintenance key turn perhaps, or a bored rat with aspirations. I might have forgotten it if the vibration sensor downstream, the one that lives under a section everyone swears is perfectly straight, didn't register a signature it associated with human footsteps. I told myself a story I could go back to work with. A night crew checking something without telling us. A door that liked to flirt with its own latch. Then I set a flag on the section and kept listening to the railroad. Whatever wakes you at that hour has a way of writing itself on your skin. My wife, Sloan, designs evenings. Experience architecture, she calls it, because the world insists that beauty wear a hard hat. She paints time with light and scent and music and deploys them in the right order so that strangers become less strange to each other. Her favorite notes are bergamot, polished brass, and a small, decisive hit of cedar. She wears white blazers with pockets big enough for all her secrets. We married on a Wednesday because we liked stealing nice things from the middle of the week. On the courthouse steps, we split a canned espresso and pretended it hurt the way champagne does. Her lipstick stamped the rim and the rim stamped my mouth. "You smell like iron filings," she teased. I told her that was the smell of the city remembering how to move. Sloane's latest client was a luxury brand with a taste for industrial theater. They wanted a pop-up gala in a repurposed station, strictly above board after hours, insurance forms choked with signatures. She came home with the smell of tile on her and talked about projection mapping and shadow play, and the way a certain corridor swallowed footsteps because the air down there kept secrets better than townhouses did. She also came home hungry. She liked to sit on our kitchen counter and tug me closer by my belt like she'd hired me to be there. We kissed with the window open, the night air tasting of rain and electricity. I was good at the thing where you put your palm to the side of someone's throat without pressing, just to feel where sound is considering becoming language. She liked when I did that. It calmed her storms, and she had terrific ones. 2 nights after the egress door's little tantrum, 1:42 glowed again. Same door, same signature under the track. A camera caught a patch of coat or a ghost in a coat. I checked work orders and saw no night crew assigned near there, and maintenance swore they'd been uptown with a switch that preferred Wednesdays. The flag I set popped like a bubble under my finger. On the third night, I dusted the inside rim of the egress handle with a smear of fluorescent powder I borrowed from engineering's fun drawer. I touched the lip of the maintenance panel too, where no one with an honest errand ever touches. I am not proud. I am thorough. That night Sloane came to meet me for a coffee at 2 in the morning. She can make any room pretend it's a lobby, and the OCC obliged. She perched on my desk like she owned the furniture, jacket open over a black slip that ignored clocks. She kissed me and slid her hands into my hair like she was testing the wind. Her mouth was expensive grapefruit and apology. "Your world needs softer chairs," she said, looking at the operator stools as if they'd been rude to her. "My world needs fewer doors that open themselves," I replied too lightly. She looked at me the way a stage looks at a spotlight. "You're doing the thing where you make jokes instead of being a person." "What happened to the egress on Lower East?" I asked before I could put the leash back on my voice. Her smile didn't break. It changed flavor. "Maintenance uses doors. Doors open," she said, like she was inventing grammar for me. Then, after a beat, "Can we have the brave conversation?" I had known for a week it was coming, because she'd been kissing me like a person standing in a doorway not sure which way she's going to lean. "Define brave," I said, and my headset hissed softly with the sound of trains. I didn't have to move right that second. "Open," she said. The word sat between us like a cat we were both pretending was a decorative pillow. "Not careless, grown, rules. No one who signs your timesheets, no one cutting checks to me. You first always, me first always. Condom is church, our bed is our passport. No trains, no stations." She said it efficiently as if she'd already done mood boards. "You're asking me to build drains in case of rain," I said. My hands knew where her body would relax at those words because bodies learn faster than brains. "I'm telling you the weather," she said, and she did not lie. That matters even when it doesn't fix anything. We wrote our treaty in our kitchen, and we sealed it with a kiss that tasted like we were both trying to keep our tongues quiet. The rules made sense while they were in the air. Most rules do. When I checked the dusted door the following morning, the blacklight told the truth. A luminous smear in the shape of a thumbprint, a curve of palm that glowed like a guilty moon. The maintenance panel sang the same small song. On my way back to the office, I stopped under one of the platform cameras and looked at my reflection in the lens. There was powdered truth under my nails, and I wanted to bite my fingers until they were raw. The man arrived as names do in my world. A notation on an email, a CC on an Excel file, a print sticker ruined by a smart person with poor timing. He was listed as a creative partner on Sloane's pop-up. Luc Ward. I knew the name. Everyone with an internet connection did. His photographs made cities look like they'd been caught undressing. He liked wet pavement and neon, and he could make a subway car look like a private prophecy. In pictures, he smiled like everything belonged to him eventually. At dinner in a restaurant with too much marble and a wine list that whistled when it walked, Sloane took my hand and told me first. "We had a night," she said. "I want to keep you in it both. I can't carry them in the same pocket. I won't bring it into your house again." She didn't say hotel because she was not a monster. She said house. I asked like a fool what time, and she said Cal. My throat did what trains do when ice finds them, complained briefly, then kept moving. We lasted a little longer. We bought basil that behaved badly on our window ledge and tried to teach it to mind. We slept shoulder to shoulder and sometimes like knives. She stopped using stations, and I stopped pretending I didn't have feelings about the possibility of her mouth searching for a language on someone else's neck. The night I decided to leave or the night she decided to go, no difference worth measuring. We folded our clothing into boxes like we were packing up a shop. She found a loft with too many windows and the kind of kitchen a magazine would develop a crush on. I kept the battered mug. She kept the kettle that complained before it boiled. She kissed the hinge of my jaw with great care. "Hate me clean if you have to," she said. "Don't live there." I intended to live in the control room for a while. The monitors, at least, had never kissed anyone behind my back. That's when Rhea arrived the way Dawn does, full of work and uninterested in your tragedy. She was a signal maintainer with a temper she kept in a toolbox. Her hands knew how to persuade bolts. She laughed like she didn't need permission. Most nights she smelled like machine oil and mint gum. Once she smelled like rain and skin, and after that it was a problem. We met officially under a fan that wasn't doing its job. I had a section flagged. She had a ladder and an unwillingness to pretend a screw that won't turn is a philosophy issue. She tilted her chin at the culprit and swore at it with a kind of tenderness I wanted to be famous for. We went for coffee at a cart that understood loneliness. She teased me for the way I stood, like a man trying to be a gate. I told her about the egress door that loved one, 42, and about a marriage that had learned too late how to laminate rules. "People use doors," she said. "Machines use doors too. You can love the machine without forgiving the person." That night in the electrical closet at a station that had asked to be beautiful for a century and managed it, we kissed. The light was mean and fluorescent, and nothing about it deserved how gentle she was with me. She cupped the back of my neck and said "here" under her breath like it was an instruction manual. I breathed against her throat and felt her voice think about waking. We didn't undress. Our mouths did the talking, and our hands took notes. Her jeans had a small tear at the pocket, and I hooked a finger in it like a promise. We stopped before we blamed anything on the room. With Rhea, I learned to kiss like a repair order. Patient, precise, committed to the idea that completion is not the same as ending. She liked my hands when they were rough from the racks and cursed them when I apologized for thinking too much. She kept her eyes open when she shivered as if she didn't trust the city not to move the goalposts while she looked away. My favorite place to rest was the soft indent above her collarbone, where breath rehearses being voice. If I put my palm there, she made a sound that told me I hadn't broken anything valuable. We were not careless. The railroad hates carelessness, so do people who fix it. We never used trains or platforms or rooms where a security camera could mistake us for a memo. We used kitchens after hours and darkened offices that smelled of paper and tired coffee. We used our own bodies with respect. It didn't feel like cheating on the railroad. It felt like smuggling kindness into midnight. Sloan and I became the thing that some divorce mentor would call good exes, and people who don't believe in that would call liars. We weren't either. We were colleagues in the business of having made a bad choice in housekeeping. She stayed on the pop-up project because she was the best person for it and my job was trains, not mercy. We texted like diplomats. "Basil is bullying the Rosemary again," she wrote once. "Does the OCC run on latte now, or are you still faithful to bad coffee?" "Bad coffee," I wrote back. "Loyalty is my only glamour." Luke Ward came through a few months later to shoot a midnight sequence with the permission of a small army. He shook my hand and looked at me like a man who knows his face works. "Your tunnels breathe," he said, as if he'd discovered something I hadn't. "They prefer the term respire," I said. He laughed and moved on. I let him. Some victories are keeping your job and your name in the same mouth. If this were a revenge story, I'd tell you how I looped a clip of him slipping through the egress and let it bloom on feeds with good taste in scandal. I could have. The cameras saw enough. The logs would have sung harmony. But there are churches in this city that don't have altars, and the railroad is one of them. It's given me more patience than I was born with. It saved people who hated it 5 minutes before. It puts every loneliness into motion twice an hour. I couldn't make it a weapon for my little war, even if a weapon would have felt terrific for 8 seconds. Rhea didn't want a vigilante. She wanted to sleep on my shoulder in the ugly room behind Dispatch B that smells like dust and mission statements, and she wanted me to wake her 10 minutes before her break ended because she loves her job like a dog loves the person who brings it home. We learned each other's coffee orders and where to stand on a platform in January so the wind doesn't look at you with teeth. We kept our jokes mean and our hands kind. Once, on an especially unforgiving night, I fell asleep with my face against her thigh, and she stroked my hair like she was untangling wire. I still wake at 1:42 sometimes. The body keeps trains in it. When I do, I watch the screens breathe and the track circuits tell the quiet truth. Occupied, not occupied, closed, open, I can't. If I'm home, Ria's calf is usually thrown over mine like possession with plausible deniability. I put my palm where breath becomes vowel and wait for the exactly right shiver. The difference between wanting and choosing is a temperature. The older I get, the more interested I am in degrees. Months later, at a charity gala in a station that had traded grime for glory for an evening, I met Sloane under a chandelier that wanted to be a galaxy. Her hair was shorter. In profile, she looked like a rumor the city would keep for itself. "Is she kind?" she asked me, not using Ria's name because heroes in our story are allowed privacy. "She is specific," I said, and Sloane smiled the smile that used to loosen the screws in my spine. "Be good to each other," she said. "Be boring in all the brave ways." I told her I hoped she was letting mourning into rooms that didn't belong to her. She said she was learning. It looked true. We toasted with water because that's the only drink that tells the truth without perfume. Luke was there somewhere, bathing in attention like a cat in a sunstripe. I let him win that night too, or maybe he didn't notice there was a game. That's fine. I knew which doors in that place had learned their lesson. The railroad still throws tantrums. A switch will stick in a storm like a couple in a doorway. A transformer will think about retiring without giving notice, and will have to talk it down with a wrench and a prayer. People will use the tracks for religious experiences they don't survive, and will spend a week holding our breath. Teenagers will kiss like the law is a suggestion and take selfies with ghosts. I will keep a city's secrets, the parts that can be kept, and hand the others gently to the morning with the paperwork they require. If you want a moral, don't ask a signal for one. Signals don't believe in sermons. They believe in red, yellow, green. Stop, consider, go. That's as close as I can get. I can tell you that when the egress door on Lower East blinks now, it's because a woman with a radio is doing her job and I can hear Ria's smile through 3 concrete walls when she keys up to say, "All good." I can tell you that the blacklight powder has stayed in its drawer since the night I put it back, and that sometimes restraint is a warmer coat than outrage. At dawn, when the system does its morning rumble, the consoles list our sins in small fonts. 1 track circuit that liked to flirt and is now chastened. 2 escalators that need a conversation about purpose. 1,000-ton sigh blooming in the yard like forgiveness. I run my palm across the desk the way a person might stroke a well-behaved animal. "No faults outstanding," I tell the room, and then, just quietly enough that only the wall listens, "No bypass." The rack fans answer with their equanimity. Outside, the platforms remember how to be cities. Inside, a light that once kept me awake goes on, and this time it means what it's supposed to. If you followed me home, you would find a window that likes to watch dawn happen and a basil plant that refuses to learn humility. You'd see a kettle that complains before it sings. You might see, in a room that has earned the right to call itself ours, a woman who sleeps like she trusts the floor, and a man who finally understands that forgiveness is a maintenance routine, not a miracle. Later, when the alarm clock forgets to be cruel and the city asks nicely to be pushed into motion, I will lift a handset, call a desk, and say the words that people in my job say when the rails are holding and the distances have decided to be reasonable. Operations nominal, I'll report, which is the plainest way I know to say that tonight I did not confuse ending with completion. And at 1:42, I put my hand where a voice begins and remembered that some doors open because they must, and some because we can.